Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to another premiere draft of Modern Horizons 3 in prep for the upcoming Sealed Arena Direct this weekend. Without further ado, let's get into the Pack 1 Pick 1. This is a solid pack here. I think we just take one of the strongest uncommons, either the Deep Analysis for being the best monocolored card in this pack. I guess arguably Malevolent Rumble does work really well in the Eldrazi decks. You get a spawn token and you get a little impulse effect, finding the best card in your top 4, putting it into your hand. Plus it fills the graveyard with the rest. Yeah, Malevolent Rumble was a deceptively good card, so that might actually be better than Deep Analysis, but those are the best monocolored cards. There's also a really powerful signpost uncommon for Boros Energy. Scurry of Gremlins is an excellent finisher for that archetype. It's a pretty aggressive deck, it can make a lot of energy, and those two things together make the Scurry of Gremlins a huge finisher, buffing your entire board, hasting out your entire board, getting a lot of damage in. So I'm going to take the Scurry of Gremlins there. I have been playing... I have played a very nice Deep Analysis deck recently, so we'll go for variety's sake here and see if we can end up in that Boros Energy direction. We haven't played any energy shenanigans yet this flashback draft season. And now the Unstable Amulet is a solid little card draw engine to go in those energy archetypes to go with that Scurry of Gremlins style strategy. Very safe follow-up to that. If we'd led with Malevolent Rumble, the Basking Brood Scale is also pretty nice, so we could just start mono green towards an Eldrazi deck. That'd be pretty good. I don't love splashing around too much in these energy decks, like often you will have to do it, but I don't really want to take Gargoyle this early over something like Unstable Amulet here. This is really not the kind of pack we want to see starting in Boros Energy. There's one Envoy of the Ancestors in white and no mono red card. And the Envoy isn't even really for an energy archetype, it's for a modified archetype, one of the +1/+1 counter strategies, doesn't really do all that much by itself. Rush of Inspiration would be perfectly fine here. We would definitely take it over Perilous Landscape as speculative fixing if we do need to splash into blue and go blue, red, and white, go the full Jeskai energy. But honestly, I think there's a decent argument for just going off color, taking Malevolent Rumble, or taking Cranial Ram there. Pick 4, another Riddlegate Gargoyle. Does really look like blue-white energy is ending up more open, but it's in the same pack as Galvanic Discharge, which is excellent removal for any red deck, even if you aren't really doing energy shenanigans. This does 1 to 3 damage to whatever you choose, and leaves some energy behind if you do have other energy cards, but again, even without 3 damage to a creature at instant speed for a single red, it's already very playable. Yeah, I mean, if Discharge weren't in here, I'd certainly take Gargoyle, and we'd have to see if we can head towards blue-white, seeing a couple of those. But we also saw them both pretty early, right? This is still only pick 4, so I guess, pick 2 Gargoyle, pick 4 Gargoyle is not the biggest sign in the world for Azorius. Okay. I mean, if infinite copies of the Gargoyle are just being opened up in these packs, that it's just turning out pretty awkward. So here's all the different 2-color cards here, and none of them go with red. Which is real awkward, because every single card we've picked so far is red, and Infernal Captor is really quite filler. Playable top-end filler, but still filler. Yeah, I mean, the best backup plan for the cards we've taken so far is an energy strategy like blue-white energy, but I've now passed 2 Gargoyles in a row. Somebody else, somewhere along the line, will probably jump onto the Gargoyle train. I mean, even if nobody does it soon, somebody's going to start seeing, like, pick 9, pick 10 Gargoyles over here. At which rate, then they'll start scooping up that color pair. Pick 6, Solstice Zealot is fine, Volt Storm Angel is fine. I mean, again, we haven't seen like any massive reasons to be in green, but we've seen a lot of just consistently good green commons. Multiple Malevolent Rumblers, and the Basking Root Wallow thing, and now a Nightshade Dryad. Maybe green was the color to be in so far. But again, it's all been commons. Which isn't the biggest signal. And again, I mean, looking at this pile of cards, it's so hard to just hop onto green because none of this works with green. I'll take the Volt Storm Angel. And we are praying our second pack goes pretty well. But here we go, pick 7 Conduit Goblin. Pick 7 Conduit Goblin is really good for this pile of cards. Hexgold Slith is the safer pick, but Conduit Goblin has much higher upside. If we don't get cut off of Boros, it'll be the much better card. But Slith would be fine in Boros and still playable in Azorius if we get cut off red. I think I'm still going to lean towards the more powerful spell and take the Conduit Goblin. Here's a Nyxborn Unicorn for filler. Happy with that. Landscape's fine too. But this is the kind of archetype we really do not want to end up with too few early game creatures. So I'd certainly take this over like the random plane cycling finisher of the Angel of the Ruins. But I don't really want to take it over decent early game filler. Really need that critical mass of cheap creatures to get curving. I'll speculate on a Riddlegate Gargoyle over another Unicorn, though. Let's get one pick 10. Next pack is where the other Gargoyle was. If we see that Gargoyle pick 12, then we're Azorius Splash Red. Because at that point, we know 100% no one in the pod is in blue-white. If it goes pick 12. When at that point, it could easily just be hate drafted. It goes so late. All right. Well, we're blue-white. Splash in. Yeah, all of our red except Conduit Goblin is splashable. So we're actually a really good spot seeing that pick 12 Riddlegate Gargoyle. All right, let's go. This looks real solid. It was a very awkward, kind of concerning start, but those wheels have really given us an excellent sense of direction here, which unfortunately is not the same direction as one of the most busted rares in the whole set, Crabomination. We can't really splash that into a blue-white or Jeskai energy deck, which is sad because this card is miles and miles ahead of everything else in the pack in terms of power level, but it's just unplayable for the deck we're currently drafting. So we have Bespoke Battle Wagon, which is pretty slow, but can give a lot of good value over time to an energy deck, which is fine. I think we're in a good spot to play an aggressive, like, tempo-based strategy where I don't think we want the really good grindy energy card. So I think I'm just going to go like Serum Visionary here, which is just great value the second it hits the board. We get to keep curving out while also playing a pseudo draw spell at the same time. Here's a red-white dual land. And because of the hybrid mana value, it is a playable combat trick, even without hitting our splash color. So this is our second dual land towards hitting red for our, splashed in Scurry Gremlins and Galvanic Discharge style cards. So I like the leadership here, although Dog Umber I think would also be fine. Pick number 3. I do want to get aggressive enough here that I would prefer not to be the kind of deck that can utilize a board wipe really well. Whereas the Glyph Elemental is absolutely incredible. Every landfall gives you +1/+1 counter, and if you bestow this onto somebody else, then it's like 2 must-be-killed threats. You put this on a 2/2, and they're going to have to kill it eventually because it just keeps getting bigger every single turn, and once they kill that 2/2, this is already like as big as the number of +1/+1 counters on it, and then you keep putting more and more and more counters on it. Glyph Elemental is really, really good. Wrath of the Skies is also very good, but Glyph Elemental is really good and fits in this more aggressive strategy. Couple fine filler energy cards, Tempest Harvester for the looter, and Inspired Inventor for the flexible options there. Let me fill out another 3-drop here. I do like Harvester a little bit better than Inventor in a vacuum, but I do have a bajillion 2-drops already. Alright, well, we can play around with the Wrath of Skies anyway. Although Tune the Narrative is perfectly fine in blue-white energy. But Wrath of the Skies, because it's flexible, you choose whatever mana value you want for it. And you can keep some energy off of it to do something else. It's not as bad as just running literal Wrath of God in an aggro deck. It's good enough to still be playable in here for sure, even if it is a little counterintuitive. Thraben Charm. Perfectly main deckable in the format. There are some Reanimator spells you can blank with the Exile ability. There are some enchantments you can blow up, like the removal-based enchantments. And then, of course, when you're a more aggressive strategy with a high creature count like we're trying to be, this blows up creatures as well. Here's Area Auxiliary, which is great. There's a solid synergy 2-drop in that pack as well, but auxiliary is very, very, very good for the mana cost. Essentially 5 power and toughness for 4 mana, 3 of which is flying. Here's another good value play. We get to play a creature to the board while still playing a miniature draw spell at the same time. Love that. Razorgrass Ambush is pretty good too, but I'd rather have another Visionary on curve here. Here's another Hexgold Slith over Conduit Goblin. I'm not trying to splash in a 2 mana off-color card, because again, if we're going to be running 4 or 5 red sources, we're not going to have a red on turn 2 often at all, so this ends up being a turn 4 or 5 play, which is pretty bad. 10, not playing Decree of Justice. It's funny because most of the reprints that they've put in the set just show how immensely powerful the cards that they've been printing directly into Modern are. Right, because they're reprinting all these cards that have never been in Modern before into Modern, and they're like, yeah, these are going to be cool. These are going to be real spicy, real exciting, and the vast majority of them are just like, this card's just not good anymore. Like, you just power crept the heck out of it with cards you just printed in the brand new set. I don't know why. It's very funny to me. That just the majority of the reprint sheet are just misses. It's kind of sad. I am referring to draft playability. I don't know anything about constructed. There's probably some of them that are pretty important in constructed. Okay. We've opened some absolutely insane rares for completely different decks. Carbomination and then Spring Hardened Tuco. Some of the best rares in their colors. But we just can't even consider running them. We can take another Thraben Charm. Or a Razorgrass Ambush. I think I'd rather just take the Thraben Charm. I mean, being able to play this as a land is nice, but this can kill a lot more stuff. Royal Cartographer looks awesome for the deck. Flopping out some energy every time landfall happens, and if we have 6 energy, we draw 3 cards, which is huge. You activate that ability once, and you're doing absolutely great. Aether Revolt's fun as well, but it's double red off of the splash, and it's still not the most consistent kind of win condition in the first place. But it is a really fun build around to try to get to work. I think it's a little too deep to go for this deck, though. Another Legion leadership. Could end up running like a single mountain with all these random duels. Electrozoa is not bad in this deck, though, but not super exciting. Pretty close between Copy Crook and Electrozoa now. Copy Crook looks like it fits better in the curve, but we can play Unicorns bestowed on 4 as well. Do like playing a lot of flyers. I mean, turn 2 Gargoyle, turn 3 Electrozoa is a real scary start. Take that. Rattle the Implicit Maze is also very powerful, so despite being double red, maybe on the scale there somewhere in terms of pick order. Trying to do a double red splash. Probably a lot safer to just take the Perilous Landscape here. I mean, it's the literal perfect piece of fixing, but there's another Electrozoa that's nice too. I will grab the Landscape. Rain Surge, fine instant speed draw spell. It's competing with Hydroelectric Specimen or splashing in a Glimpse. Just take the Brain Surge. Another Perilous Landscape, nice. Ooh, that's competing with another Area Auxiliary though. This is going to be pretty perfect in this deck. I mean, we have so many 2-mana creatures. We are really just dump a couple creatures out, drop an Area Auxiliary, and hope that ends the game as the strategy. So doubling up on the Ares is going to be very good here. Blue-red Terramorphic Expanse. Certainly much worse than Perilous Landscape. I might not even want to run that. I'll take a Guardian here. Might get cut. We could play a Razorgrass Ambush. Then it looks to be just about all the playables we're going to get. I doubt I'm running a full play set of Nyxborn Unicorn. Ooh, we wield an Electrozoa though. I'll probably play both of those. Cut like the Envoy of the Ancestors or something. Although double Auxilia makes this a little more interesting than before. Still a little bit low on synergy, but if I get really lucky and draw the 2 together, obviously that's pretty nasty. I mean, I guess all the Nyxborn unicorns are also modifying whatever you put the enchantment onto, plus the +1/+1 counter modifies another creature. Envoy is a little more interesting in here than it would usually be in blue-white. All right, first off, let's cut at least 2 lands here. I think if you get a bunch of these double-faced lands, the simplest way to do it is to cut half as many lands as you have these, and then you play these 50-50 between lands and spells, depending on when you draw them. Then you get the benefits of running a 15 land deck when you're flooding out, but also the benefits of running a 19 land deck when you're mana screwed. If you cut lands 1 for these, then you're not getting any help out of your double-faced cards when you are mana screwed, because you're essentially still just running a 17 land deck in that instance. So you're only getting the flood prevention benefit, so by cutting half as many as you have of these, then you're kind of getting both halves of these cards a little more often. So that's what I do if I have like a bunch of them. If I only have one, then sure, I'll cut like 1 land for 1 modal card. But if I have like 4, and then cutting just 2 lands, I think generally makes sense. So let's just drop double mountain here, since all 3 of these are red. And then we have mountain and landscape. Double check the creature count here. We're pretty aggressive. We'd like to be at about 17 creatures, but we also have a scurry of gremlins, so let's knock that down to 16 creatures. So we're at 22 right now, so let's cut 6 of them. Not going to have a bunch of artifacts or enchantments to pick up with Rosecott Knight. I mean, it looks 6 cards deep. It could pick up our Riddlegate Gargoyles, our Amulet, our Scurry of Gremlins. And then I'm probably not cutting all 4 unicorns, so it could pick up some amount of those or Glyph Elemental, but it is still like a second 5-drop. And I think this deck wants a pretty low curve. So cutting like the weakest 4 and the weakest 5 makes sense to me. I still like Voltstorm Angel more than Knight. Even if we actually do have a reasonable artifact enchantment count for it, we got 10 right now, but I will be cutting some unicorns. That won't stay at 10. So those are probably getting cut. And then at 3 mana, love being able to play a creature to the board while also setting up my future draws. And I just like flyers a lot here, which leaves these, because that's still 5 3-drops. If I cut the other ones, so that does make sense. We do have some potential synergies with the Envoy that could be fun, but we already got 3 lifelinkers, 4 lifelinkers naturally. And that's all this does. It only gives lifelink. Doesn't like give them any extra buffs or anything like that. Yeah, that's probably fine. And then I have a million unicorns, so some amount of those can get cut. Again, we need to cut 6 cards to be at 16 creatures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom. And these, of course, fit multiple slots on the curve because we can bestow them. They're pretty filler at either slot on the mana curve, but you do need some amount of filler creatures, and at least they're flexible in terms of where you're casting them. So this looks like the good 16 creatures plus a scurry that we want, and then we just cut 3 of our non-creatures. We jolted awake. I do have a lot of 2s, so it's better in this deck than most, but most of the times it's pretty bad. This is essentially like we can bring our best 2-drop back from our grave, but the problem is like by the time a 2-drop's in the grave, it's going to be like turn 4 or 5 where a 2-drop's not super impactful anyway. I guess we're heavy enough into energy that we might be able to bring back like an auxiliary or something with it, but it still feels like the worst of the non-creatures, because our non-creatures are generally so good otherwise. Maybe we want to make the red splash a little bit lighter here and drop an Unstable Amulet. Right, Galvanic Discharge stays relevant late game. Scurry of Gremlin's really relevant late game. I mean, even Unstable Amulet is relevant later, right? Card draw engine, once you get into a top deck war. But I have some decent value plays already. Double Visionary, Brain Surgeon, Cartographer. So maybe the splashed in one is a little overkill. Certainly the hardest one to cast. Sure, I'll drop Unstable Amulet. 1 final cut. I think we're low enough curve. I could go for 14 lands and 4 flippers. So we'll cut one more land and call it a deck there. 17 white cards, 11 blue, and 5 red. Of course, those 5 red cards include our 3 ones that we can just play as a red land. So I'm not putting any more red mana in here. But it's 17 to 11 in our main colors. And we are currently at 7, 8, 9, 10 white sources, 6, 7 blue sources. So cut 1 white source, and then we are on 6, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7. We're on a 9-7 split, but because of the landscape as well, potentially plays like a 10-8. Sounds good to me. Call it a deck here, hop into the gameplay, and see how well this one does. Perfectly playable opening hand here. Nothing super exciting, but everything we need to set up to play out the long game here. Elemental into Visionary to curve out immediately. And then, of course, off of the Visionary, we search out whatever we need to keep casting spells. Draw 1, scry 2, get rid of any extra lands, and see how things play out from there. If our opponent leads with a decent 2-mana creature, I might lead with Galvanic Discharge. That way I could wait and actually bestow Glyph Elemental onto somebody instead of just casting it by itself. But if we have nothing to play here turn 2, I'll just run out the Elemental to curve. Well, I'm going to kill the heck out of Psychic Frog. The best thing about the Galvanic Discharge in this instance is that if they discard enough cards to save Psychic Frog from Galvanic Discharge, then I can just choose not to pay the energy to shoot it. Right, if they discard 2 cards to make it 4 toughness, then I just get 3 energy and then don't pay any energy. So they're going to discard 3 cards here to kill 2 of mine. And actually, I could just still choose to do the energy, and then these would both die anyway. This feels actually massively favored no matter what they do. They'd have to discard their whole hand for the frog to not die. Okay, and again, Galvanic Discharge so powerful because once I get to choose how much to pay, they can't respond, so I just pay 3 and it's gone. My Elemental lives. It's ridiculous. So yeah, that was really good for us. Eat the Psychic Frog at the cost of just one of our spells. We got rid of 3 of theirs. They discarded 2 and lost the frog, and that's just game. That is just game. Yeah, we went for the... I was really not expecting the block there against our open mana. Because again, if they block and we have Discharge in the Elemental there, it goes so wrong for them. Because their only way to keep the frog is then ditching the whole hand for this to have 7 toughness. Which, I mean, the way that our hand looks could theoretically maybe win them the game from there. It's possible, because then I'd just play a Slith and I'm playing against... what would that be? 6 power, 7 toughness frog. They've got enough cards to just give it flying, hit me, draw a card, and I just don't have the removal for it, so I'd have to prey off a Visionary. I mean, it sounds insane, but if their play after that was just untap concede, then their best chance was probably ditch the entire hand and just go all in on that frog and pray that I don't have the removal for it. Obviously, we know in hindsight, we don't have the removal to kill a 6/7 in our hand here, or honestly in our deck in general. but they couldn't have known that, so they probably didn't want to go all in on it and have it just get pacified or something. So, all right. Well, that was very good for us. We are 1-0 now, heading into game 2. Game 2, same start, Glyph Elemental into Visionary. Got a really good 4-drop in this hand, though. We've got one of those area auxiliaries. When all is said and done. I'm going to lead with our tap land here, make sure that we can play untap lands all the way up the curve to 4. Conduit Goblin starts things off from our opponent, who is on the play. So we are playing against Boros on the play, which is quite threatening. Great draw here. We now get to lead with a Riddlegate Gargoyle instead of Glyph Elemental, to have that option of bestowing later if we want it. And also to be able to get some lifelinking swings in if they don't blow this up. Conduit Goblin does not add any toughness to whatever it's buffing, so a Serum Visionary to be able to trade into one of their goblins feels good for us. I mean, in fact, with a Wrath of the Skies coming up here, I don't mind just slowing them down and trading our Riddlegate Gargoyle off right now. Yeah, and then since the Visionary draws a card when we play it, I think in this matchup we just lean into that Wrath of the Skies and just go for card draw, look for our lands, play very defensively, trade off aggressively because these creatures are going to die to Wrath anyway. 1, 2, 3. I've got a good 5-drop in hand, so I do want one of these. Let's grab the Perilous Landscape to thin another land out of the deck, and that'll be our 5th mana. Also plays well with Glyph Elemental if we get towards that. Ooh, I actually love to see that. Throw removal at the Serum Visionary that's already drawn me a card and is gonna die to a Wrath anyway, so as many resources as they expend here to make the board in their favor. It's just gonna be better for me. Awkward part is I don't have a great play here turn 4 to hide Wrath of the Skies. So if they just hit us for like 3 and pass, then we're just tempoing ourselves for nothing. Tap land, pass. Okay. Do you want to plop down Electrozoa? You can plop down Electrozoa and hope they have removal for it. That is a play I can make. But at some point you gotta bite the bullet and just accept a Wrath for 2 creatures. They're only hitting me for 4 a turn right now. Might be insane, but I'm gonna hold off. Another auxiliary. Jeez. They have 3 cards left in their hand. Two other target creatures. Alright, well this should just force interaction regardless. Definitely looks like in hindsight the best play would have been Wrath the board rather than passing and dropping Electrozoa. Just kill the 2 things. So I can do Wrath for 4. Blow up everything with mana value 4 or less. And that'll win the game, because Voltstorm Angel survives the Wrath here. I can also do 2 or less and let them keep Ether Revolt. I'm going to spend the 4 and get all the energy. But how much am I going to spend here? I think I'm gonna blow up the Ether Revolt. I should have attacked first. Okay. Looks like we're vibing. And they just flooded out or something. Maybe they have their own Wrath. Be pretty funny. Still have 2 post-Wrath creatures. Cycle Decree of Justice for some 1/1s. Hello, 1/1s. The classic artwork, too. And early 2000s Magic artwork is like my favorite era of Magic artwork. The Ravnica 10th edition era art. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's lethal on board. Okay. I don't think I played the Wrath out perfectly there, and I kind of forgot about the flexibility of like choosing whatever mana value. So I could have also just like, when I decided not to Wrath their 2 creatures and then flash in the Electrozoa, I didn't realize that was actually, all things considered, pretty good play if I knew how Wrath of the Skies worked in my head. Because I could flash in, I pass to them. If they play anything else that's like higher mana value, I could just not play Electrozoa, then untap and blow it all up. If they don't play anything else, I get to flash in Electrozoa and then blow up everything with mana value 2 or less, which is both of their 2 creatures but not my Electrozoa. So that actually would have played super, super fine if that's what I was intending to do. But then I just played Electrozoa and Voltstorm Angel and kind of whatever from there. But yeah, I gotta keep in mind the mana value stuff. It's a Wrath that you can actually keep committing to the board with if your opponent's creatures are lower mana value than yours. Like, especially if we have like a Voltstorm Angel in our hand, like we can commit that to the board against aggressive strategies like Boros. Probably wouldn't do it against Eldrazi, because against those strategies I'll end up wanting to Wrath for mana value 6 or 7 or something. But against like Boros decks, Orzhov decks, stuff like that, we could play our 5-drop, sometimes even our 4-drop birds, and somewhat expect them to survive the Wrath. A little bit of a curve out here, Slith into Electrozoa. I don't know which one of these is going to be the better spell to have later this game. Probably Rush of Inspiration, a little bit of card draw when we're done with everything. We also have a lot more white cards in the hand than blue cards, so I like playing another white source here. We're playing against blue-black, which is a very good, somewhat controlling archetype, somewhat tempo. Just a bunch of card draw in there, a bunch of removal, but the mechanic is about drawing 3 or more cards in one turn, so they have Conniving, as well as cards like Deep Analysis that draw 2 cards. Anything that says draw 2 just immediately triggers all of the cards that care about drawing 3 in one turn, because you draw 1 in your draw step and 2 off of your draw 2 spell. Yeah, so there's going to be like a really good grindy kind of value deck here. So I gotta do first strike on this attack to get the counter. It's a decent matchup for our Thraben Charm. Could end up exiling something from their grave and ruining their day. feel like we've drawn our one-of mount in like all 3 games. A Cursed Marauder. It's very good with Transmigrant on the board. Lose the Slith here. Keep an Electrozoa, or do I sack Electrozoa for this? I think I lose the Slith here. I mean, they've got a bunch of creatures on the ground. Another Electrozoa. I'm playing that here. Next turn I hit for a whole bunch if they don't blow up the first Electrozoa. Because that's 6 power already, and I can bestow the Unicorn after I untap before I attack. That's 8 power plus the Mentor trigger, which is 9 damage. Oh, Viscerator's Insight's a really nice card for the draw 3 strategy as well. Because they can sack cards like the Sneaky Snacker that comes back from grave, the Transmigrant that comes back from grave. They could have a removal spell in response to us trying to bestow Unicorn, but we still keep the Unicorn, so... Not the complete end of the world, just a little sad we don't get the massive swing. That's 9 damage, baby. They are down to 6. But now all they have to do is hold up 1 removal spell and blow up whichever Electrozoa we choose to untap here. Okay. Meddler's fine. I will just choose not to untap that Electrozoa. And then... Thraben Charm currently only deals 4. So I can't actually Thraben Charm the Meddler. So we actually just let them both become tapped for now. And I need this Rush of Inspiration to hit something. Do you have a free counterspell? You can't be serious. Okay. I mean, it's a little bit annoying, but it's also like, that is a huge cost to pay to stop us from like having a chance of drawing something somewhat relevant. Maybe they think they have lethal this turn? I mean, it's possible. I can't blow up the Meddler, so if they're trying to lethal us with the Meddler somehow, then they've got us. But Flare to stop, draw 2, discard 1 at random. When we're down at 9 as well, so the extra 2 damage is pretty relevant. Yeah, I guess they just really wanted to stop that. Kind of think I need to Thraben Charm the Shadow Spinner. It's lifelinking, it draws 2 discards too. I think I need to shoot it. 2 for 1 us with a good removal spell though, where they kill an Electrozoa and counter the charm. This is bad. Okay, they've got just the insight. Fair enough. I think we untap Electrozoa here. What are you doing with your 1 mana? Stuff and things. Okay, bad draws are bad. Which one is this? This is the 4-2. I will decline to untap that. But I will send in the 5-3. And then I have a Unicorn ready to attack now. Our opponent has hit more lands. Well, I don't think I have not missed a single land drop, so we've hit the same number of lands, but they've also drawn like a whole bunch of cards, right? Like 6 extra cards, so it's expected that they have a good chunk of lands, too. We have not gotten to draw any extra cards. Deem Inferior on Electrozoa is actually just good for me, because I was out of energy for it. So now I can replay it and actually get attacks in. Draws are really bad, but I just flash that in their end step, and if they don't have instant speed removal, it gets swings again. Thanks to giving me the energy back. It might be too slow if I hit a land right before it like I did there. The land clump might get us killed here because they're hitting for 3 and then they're hitting for 4. So next turn they're hitting for 4 plus 3 because the Transmigrant, yeah, it's too slow. Transmigrant kills us here. We needed to hit a spell in these last couple turns and we didn't, so we are dead. Oh, nope, they didn't have a non-land card to discard to Sentry, or they chose not to discard a non-land card. So now we're not dead on board. We take 6, not 7. Had they discarded a non-land card there, if they had access to one, we would be dead on this attack without trading Electrozoa off into something that comes back from grave anyway. Now that non-land card, if they have one, could just be a removal spell that kills Electrozoa anyway, so either way they play it is fine, but if there's any like non-land, non-removal spell, it would have been good for them to get the counter there. Alright, here comes removal. Yep, oh, life gain removal too. And a unicorn. Sadly, just too many lands there. And that is gonna be 1-1 heading to game 3. Okay. Here we are for game 3 now, 1-1. Very good opener. Couple of really powerful 2-drop creatures and then the auxiliary to buff everybody up. Lead Gargoyle. I'd probably bestow this card way more often than I should. It's probably better to just lead Elemental than hardcast Gargoyle, but I enjoy bestowing. They kill Gargoyle in response, we still just get the Glyph Elemental. They got the counter spell for it. Fair enough. They could still counter it even if I played the land first, and obviously, when you don't know for sure if they have the counter or not, you should not play the land before the landfall trigger card. Evolution Witness. Little 2-1, but it gets beefier. Just curve out in the sky here. Go auxiliary, go. I can put a counter on their Witness and let them get the... Actually, nothing in their grave to get back. This is so weird. I can make it so they can't adapt that to stop them from ever getting a permanent back with it, because you can't adapt something if it has counters on it. So now they can never get a permanent back with Witness, because they can't adapt it. Like, I think I'm more than confident enough in our race to just stop the value from that. It's just gonna be really bad if I just hit lands, because then I just put the lands back and sit here drawing lands for multiple turns. Oof. These aren't bad draws, but we know we're just gonna draw land the next 2 turns after this. Okay. Yeah, let me reorder my double island real quick. Thraben Charm the Oozewag while they're tapped out. Keep winning the race here. Into 9. Keeping the extra energy because they are a green deck. They're Eldrazi colors. We might need a really big Galvanic Discharge. If we ever find the red, I mean, we're drawing double island for a while. Yep, that's a problem and a half. It's a problem and a half, but it is potentially raceable. In fact, they're tapped out, so they're just dead. 9 damage. There's the concession from our opponent. We are 2-1 heading into game number 4. All right, here we are for game 5. We are 3-1. I think I deleted that Psychic Frog win from my memory because they cast one spell and then died to the Galvanic Blast. So I just totally forgot about that win. We're actually 3-1, and it is game 5. This is a nice opening hand. Gargoyle, Auxiliary, Unicorn, the Gargoyle. We could try to do that again if we find another creature to play. Filler in between turn 2 and turn 4. If I don't find another creature, I'll just play a stupid little Unicorn to the board. And that late game Wrath of the Skies if our opponent gets ahead of us. Red-green. Hello, Eldrazi. They start off with Smelted Charge Bug, though. Legion Leadership is the draw. We've hit a red source here. I can play the tap land and the Unicorn. It's also our second white for Wrath of the Skies. That feels worth running out as the land. Just gonna hold on to this energy. It's more for Wrath of the Skies and other shenanigans. Ooh. I'm gonna wait on this Auxiliary, because Unicorn on Unicorn is very fun. The Unicorn tag team, the squad is here. Mentor, mentor. Big Gargoyle. Yes. Still gonna not gain life yet. Boom, they're down to 10. My Unicorn is so good it's been bestowed by its friend, that Unicorn in the background. See, it's a flavor win. There's 2 unicorns in the artwork. Tag team's unbeatable. This card is not that good, but it has been very nice in this deck so far, somehow. Sheezed out a couple of our victories already, I think. I mean, definitely last game. Just tossing it on flyers. Pretty good in deck with triple Gargoyle, double Auxiliary. Double Electrozo as well. We got a lot of flyers to slap it onto. Although I guess this game's not the best example of that, because it's Unicorn on Unicorn here. Alright, they're just going to hold off the blockers for the Unicorn squad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 power. I would need to double buff that to get it in here. Puts the counters on other attacking creatures, so I feel like we just don't attack with it here then. Just send it in the sky should be fine. Send it in the sky still kills them in 2 swings. I mean, I guess I can still kill Propagator Drone to make sure that doesn't do any nonsense. There's not a huge reason not to. Because we will still keep one of the unicorns out. Get some good trades. Nightshade Dryad, that does not have reach. It does have Death Touch, but it does not have reach. And that's the concession. Flyers are always good in Drought. I guess not always, but 9 times out of 10. 9 sets out of 10. Blue-white Flyers is the truth. And that continues to be the case here. We are 4-1 heading into game number 6. Alright, we're going to be on draw here for the game 6. Good opening hand. We have all 3 of our colors thanks to our red-white dual land in the opener. Cartographer. So there's 2 ways we can play this hand out. We can play it as late-game grindy value, Cartographer into Visionary, or full aggro Slith into Electrozoa, or there's like an in-between where play the aggressive card, then the draw spell, play the draw spell, then the aggressive card. Cartographer is better turn 2 than anything than any other turn, but we just drew into Area Auxiliary. Slith into Zoa into Auxiliary is a lot of pressure, and Green Blue's a deck that can have really strong late game with a bunch of Eldrazi. So I'm going to try to play this out full aggro curves into that Auxiliary that we drew. One, three. That is very annoying. Because even if I get first strike, the Slith doesn't get in now. Also, did not draw a land, so that does make me want to play Serum Visionary to lock in land 4 for Auxiliary. So much for like the full aggro start here, but gotta do what you gotta do. We got a hair land draw. Visionary makes that almost guaranteed. Draw plus Scry 2. Could I use 5 mana? Yeah, I could absolutely use 5 mana. We can play Cartographer and Electrozoa, or Cartographer and Brain Surge, and because Electrozoa's instant speed gives us a really flexible turn after this, so we do want the 5th land for sure. I've got double blue, I've got double white, a bunch of blue cards in hand, so we'll take the 3rd blue over the 3rd white. Sure. But yeah, now it's going to be land auxiliary, and then it's going to be cartographer land in either any of our instants. Yep, they are setting up for massively explosive late game, which makes that Void card super, super good here, holding off our 2-1, but then also giving them the mana to start dropping Giant Eldrazi soon. Luckily, Auxiliary does let us get the swing here. They could have the 1 mana +1/+1 counter trick, in which case we'll trade this creature into that trick. But if not, we'll get 6 in. Alright. Sure, 1-for-1 trade our creature into the trick. Permanently gives reach and death touch, though, which is pretty annoying. Alright, just get a 6/6 there. And here comes the Eldrazi deck doing the Eldrazi thing. That is a wild attack. Poke for 2 to take 3. Okay. So I guess they just feel that they're firmly in the aggressive lead here. Scurry. Ooh. Not the greatest on this board, but once we have like all of the Electrozoa out, it'll be pretty wild. So we save it for that occasion. Just try to go wide and buff the whole board with haste, and they've only got the 1 reach blocker. So against 3 flying attackers, all with at least 4 power off of that +1/+0, could be how we plan to win this game. Go to 12. Sure. Auxiliary is a 1/1 now. And they can exile it as well. Here's an Electrozoa. Nyxborn Unicorn. Actually wish I had more mana now. Being able to play that bestowed and something else could be pretty good, but by itself, it's not the most impressive turn. Brain Surge hit a land plane Electrozoa, and then we try to go like Scurry plus Unicorn, maybe. Plains Riddlegate Gargoyle here. 6 mana next turn. I could play Gargoyle plus Scurry next turn. Can't like double Gargoyle Scurry. Can't double Gargoyle right now. I don't need 7 mana next turn. Yeah, I don't need to draw the land next turn. I mean, I guess I could just activate Cartographer for that anyway. Probably have to try to do Visionary Electrozoa for Aberration here. Two cards in their hand. One's Eldrazi Repurposer, plays a bunch of stuff to the ground, but I got multiple Gargoyles for the sky. Got one card in their hand. They've already used one trick. Let's see if they got another. Guess they could have another one of these insignificance things. Another like removal spell instead. Gross. Okay. Indestructible trick. They did have double trick there. We might just be dead to that. We have to expend a ton of resources to try to kill that again and get trampled for a bunch. How do I even set up a block to kill a 6/6 now? Ridiculous. Like bestow a unicorn onto this thing and then don't attack with it? Not very good. Four energy off that. I have 9. Double activate. 5 power and a 4 power attacker in the sky. Wouldn't have the energy left to give lifelink if I double activate. Nope, I think we are turtle mode here. No good top deck, please. No good top deck, please. Do they have the mana to Void Craw again? Oh, yeah, they can sack some spawn. They are not going to. I mean, it's... Okay, no, that is actually a really good draw. I was gonna say, it's not like an insane draw, but it is a good draw, sadly. It actually is pretty insane, because it combos with the Void Craw to give another spawn every turn, too. Oh, I don't let Void Royal Cartographer die here. Yeah. I can't block with the Area Auxiliary because they can sack the spawn to then exile it, and then I won't kill the aberrations. That's why we're not doing that. I have to lose Gargoyle or Cartographer here. think second Gargoyle, Scurry, Hasten, Lifelink is our best bet. Lands for days. Can give one of these lifelink and still activate this 2 more times. I will be at 15. They have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power on the crackback. Yep. Definitely not mentoring the auxiliary that they can exile. Oh, gives any creature lifelink? That's interesting. I don't think I realized that. I know I didn't realize that. Yeah, the spawn tokens are so good against this because they get to chump all this damage and also exile area auxiliary before it damages them. Alright, we're obviously going to activate one more time here so we kill Eldrazi Repurposer as well, but we'll save the rest of it for any creature we top deck. Okay. Top deck war, but Voidcraw draws them a card every turn. Great. That is absolutely incredible with Unsealing on board. Stun, stun, draw 3. And it's a flyer. And for 6. Just cute. But it ain't lethal. Okay, I mean, worth it. Get the 5/5 flyer out of the way. Oh my god. 5/7 Vigilance, Reach, Death Touch. If it would die instead, get rid of Lion Umbra. Exactly 1 turn too late. Now all I can do with it is pop the Lion Umbra, which essentially does nothing. Alright. This game's been over for some time now. Voidcraw, the absolute MVP there. As I said, with the way that we tried to curve out early, against these green-blue decks, against the Eldrazi color pairs, you really do need to try to get it underneath them to aggro them out, because their late-game plays are just completely absurd after they set things up a little bit with a card like Kozilek's Unsealing. I mean, 5/5 flyer, stun 2 of your cards, draw 3, create some spawn. The Voidcraw, though, the 100% MVP. If we just drew, like... If we drew our Thraben Charm, one of our Thraben Charms or our Galvanic Discharge or something, to kill this in the early game, I think we win this game. Because they drew like 5 or 6 cards off of this one Voidcraw. It also gave them some mana at times, and the high toughness was very relevant as well, particularly having exactly the trick that gave Reach. If they didn't have a Reacher there, then we could have killed them in the sky at some point, but just not finding the removal. Our first removal spell being drawn, like 22 cards deep or something this game. Just not going to get us through that Voidcraw. And it is what it is. We are 4-2 heading into game number 7. All right, here we are on the play for game number 7. This is a nice opening hand. It has a risk. It's got a red card without any red sources. But we have 3 2-drops that are castable no matter what we draw. And any third land getting us that Visionary lets us dig 3 cards closer to red mana. Okay, let's lead off with the Slith here, so that if they don't get a blocker for it, it starts that snowball rolling down the hill, getting counters and counters and counters, making it harder and harder and harder to block. They do play a blocker, but it's honestly a card I would not mind trading into, so I don't think I'm even going to give the first strike here, because they might not even want to trade, in which case we get to just keep this energy. And if they do want to trade, then cool. They are not going to be buffing any Eldrazi spawn, or making any Eldrazi cheaper to cast. It's a pretty pivotal card for some Eldrazi decks, so I feel like we can get the damage in without having to spend the energy, and that indeed was the case. Now I can drop the Visionary to dig towards red and be mana efficient. There's the red off landscape, a little bit slow, but worth it. Stump Stomp, go ahead and blow up the Slith. Okay, so since they blew up the Slith, we really don't care about bestowing Unicorn here. We could play Gargoyle and get the red source ready, or we could just hard cast both of these. I feel like the bestow is generally pretty valuable, so I'll play a little slower to set it up here. Corrupted Shapeshifter, probably a 3/3 flyer. Oh, 4/4 because it that heralds the end. That's pretty good. We can blow that up with Discharge, though. If it were only a 3/3 flyer, then we could just bestow and save Discharge for later, but it's actually big enough to trade off the bestow even. So we will bestow and hold up red. And then use that red to kill that, to get these both in with that Mentor trigger. Kaboop. Actually, would be fair enough to blow up the It That Heralds the End as well, because I could blow that up to make the other one just a 3/3 and then attack in with a 3/3 and a 4/4. That would have been reasonable. They're down to 9, and we do have the double power combat trick in our hand. This is a really weird card. It sort of gives double strike, but it doesn't literally give double strike. Super strange. Alright, another 4/4 flyer, you got it. We can attack in both, get our 4/4 on the ground. We could just keep top deck and removal. This is the polar opposite of last game. We're playing against the Eldrazi deck, but we actually have the removal this time to keep that pressure going in the sky. before they get to like the 7 drops. And that could be game here. They either don't chump and die, or they chump and we could put them to 1 if we want. Feel like it's probably better to put them to 1 than to just hold this. Have a completely colorless trick here? Nope. Okay. All cards are on the table. They're at 1 life. If they blow up the Riddlegate Gargoyle, then I have 2 attackers on the ground. There's a Reef Worm. Doesn't do anything till it dies, and it splits into some creatures. GG from opponent. And there's the concession. That is a 5 winner here. We are in the money out of this draft, no matter where things go from here. 5-2, our best record yet. And the return to Modern Horizons 3. Not the greatest hand here. We don't really like running out the Unicorn turn 2 just as a 2-2 all by itself, but that's kind of what this hand lends itself to. Really hoping to draw another 2-drop creature to play on turn 3 so we can play a 2-drop and our tap land. Alright, no more creatures. Sad day. Another green-red deck, more Eldrazi colors. Menace of the format. We've been really lucky to not see a single copy of Writhing Chrysalis so far on the return trip. There's Path of Annihilation, though, which is a very, very scary card. It's one of the cheesiest of the Eldrazi plays, because it can cheese out like a 7 or 8 mana Eldrazi on turn 5 very easily. Turn 4 this game, because they Nightshade Dryad ramped into it. So now, if they have a big Eldrazi, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus they can sack both of these. So 7, 8, they have a minimum of 8, potentially 9 mana to cast Eldrazi with next turn, which is terrifying. I could just shut it off here by blowing up their 2 mana or less creatures, but I also blow up my own Unicorn to do that. But I think it'd be worth it because we kill the Dryad as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that here. I could also Wrath of the Skies for 1 and discharge the Dryad. It's a thing as well. Yeah, I don't want them to do just crazy nonsense here. So X equals 1, but then pay no energy. Just shut off the Path of Annihilation. So I traded Discharge for Dryad, and I traded Wrath of the Skies for Path of Annihilation. Just keep them from a cheese victory there. Set up Cartographer here. Over Auxiliary with only 1 target. Blow up the Unicorn, fair. Actually, they don't have the colorless to exile it, so we still poke for 1. Mana number 5 for our opponent. Depth Defiler. Draw 2, discard 1, and they've got a 3/5 blocker ready. It doesn't have reach or anything, so the Auxiliary could get in. It's a Thraben Charm that I can use to blow that up after playing Auxiliary. It's going to be much harder to kill one of their 7-drop Eldrazi with that. Because if they don't blow up any of our creatures, we can currently deal 6 damage, which isn't enough to kill any of the 7-mana Eldrazi. So I think a 3/5 is about as good as we're going to kill off the Charm anyway, so might as well kill that now and get damage in. Okay, here's a 3/1 flyer that is gonna stay untapped for a long time with all this energy we've built up from Cartographer. Some good value plays here. Serum Visionary, the 2-for-1 Ember Mage to stabilize. Scribe both to the top is a terrifying sight against Eldrazi colors with 8 mana available next turn. If one of those is a land, they need it. Assault the Cartographer, sure. That's gone. It's one less removal for our flyer. And I got a counterspell here. I think the only counter that works is a rare. Oh, sink into Stupor to put it back to hand because I somehow don't have double blue yet. Rough. And then the lack of double blue means I have to choose between Visionary and Electrozoa here. I think I gotta lead Electrozoa. Because unless the top card of my library is an island. It's not like playing Visionary first lets me play both. I don't hate the Unicorn for Visionary trade because as soon as they play a landscape or a spawn token, Unicorn's just gonna die anyway. Right, like its time is limited. Oh, sweet Jesus. Okay, cast a 7-drop auto win. As is the Eldrazi way. 6/5 reach. Draw 3, get a spawn. They hit the colorless source. I'm really happy with the trade that I chose, but I don't think there's getting through any of this at this point. I mean, Gargoyle's not awful. This is a pretty terrible blocker here, and it doesn't attack through Altasaur. Just don't do anything close to enough here. Eldrazi too strong. Altasaur isn't even an Eldrazi, but just mean the archetype, the green, blue, red ramp colors. Ooh, one of the best cards in Modern. Hello. And a 6/8 reach Eldrazi, plus gain another 4. You got me. Alright, that is 5-3 for the final record of the draft. Don't mind it at all. I think that's reasonable for this deck. Probably about the average of where this one ends up. It's a pretty good deck. Very happy with how I drafted it out, like usual. Gameplay, obviously, probably could have done a little bit better. I don't think I made any massive misplays like I usually do. So there is that. But I'm pretty happy with the colors that we ended up in this draft pod. Love the pivot off of the Gargoyles, and the way that we drafted early to stay in that energy strategy and have that chance of going towards Gargoyle. We still ended up playing some of our first few picks because of all the good dual lands we got to be able to run these in the deck, and they both played pretty well in the deck. We got some great use out of Discharge in particular. But even Scurry of Gremlins got quite a bit of damage in the one game that we drew it. Yeah, I mean, the biggest flaw was that our removal's not very good at clearing out Eldrazi, but that's kind of just the case for this color pair, or these colors in general. The best that blue can really do against Eldrazi is to have a counter spell or two, and we just didn't really see any good counters. And even then, a lot of the Eldrazi have really good abilities when you cast them. And the good late game cards that aren't Eldrazi as well, like that Altasaur had a Cascade ability. Even if I counter the Altasaur, it still cascades. which is pretty absurd. So these kind of decks just have like such good late game that's like if you have great removal that can kill the big creature, most of them already got really good value just by entering the battlefield anyway. If you have a good counter spell to counter them, a lot of them, the Eldrazi in particular, have triggers when you cast them rather than when they enter the battlefield, so they still get value even if you counter them. You really do need to just try to kill those decks before they get to those high mana values, and our hand was a little too slow there in that last game to do so. And in our second loss against the similar strategy, where they had that Cardra engine going, we just could not find these removal spells to clear out their reaching 2/4 that drew them a card every single turn. The Void Maw or Void Craw or whatever it's called, that completely took the game. So that was the biggest flaw. Right? Like, we didn't really have any chance in this draft spot of getting a deck that had particularly great removal against Eldrazi decks. But even just having a couple more Thraben Charm, Galvanic Discharge style spells would have been enough in our second loss for sure to get that Void Craw out of there. And by getting the Void Craw out of there, we would have super won that game. So probably that as the biggest flaw here. But I think the mana was more than good enough for this splash. We have triple dual land and a landscape. And that one mountain we can pull off of the landscape. So I think the mana was perfectly fine here. The curve was quite solid. The fact that the Nyxborn Unicorns worked at 2 or 4 mana was pretty nice, despite them being, pretty mediocre if we just run it out on turn 2, and a little slow bestowing on 4. That flexibility still made up for that. They actually did play pretty well in this draft. Yeah, I like everything about this deck. It's just not quite perfect. A little bit low on removal, and there's not really a bomb of any kind. I mean, there's a Wrath of the Skies, which is fine, but that's not one of like the auto win style bombs, especially in a deck that has plenty of creatures we're playing to the board ourselves. So I wouldn't really count this as a particularly bomby deck either. No really great rare in here that could really push it over the top towards that potential 7 winner. So we'll take that. This is just a solid example of a blue-white Flyers energy deck, blue-white aggro, tempo, whatever you want to call blue-white Flyers. This is what blue-white Flyers looks like in Modern Horizons, and it's a pretty good one. For a 5-3, we are in the money out of that draft with 1,600 gems and 4 packs as the prize out. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.